McKelvie.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And starting off, can I just agree with my colleague Marie Todd that we need to be very careful about conflating the word migrant with refugee. They have two different legal statuses and they mean something very, very different in our collective psyche. And starting off, Presiding Officer, I welcome this debate. It's a debate that I have been taking part in long before I was ever an elected member. 1,000 refugees is great, but it only represents 0.02% of our entire population. That's a start. That's a start, definitely. Presiding Officer, last week, the Italian Coast Guard reported that they had saved more than 10,000 refugees who were taking the dangerous sea passage to enter Europe via Libya. Many of them did not complete that journey. Desperate people taken to the sea to escape war, discrimination, fear and intimidation. Many of them, as I say, just do not make it to the end of that journey. Now, imagine if that was a member of your family. And on Sunday, Presiding Officer, my friend Lord Alf Dubs, who carried off the political coup that forced David Cameron to accept some unaccompanied children from the Calais jungle, was there on a visit. He is furious that nothing has happened. As a former child refugee himself, brought to Britain from Czechoslovakia on one of the kinder transport in 1939 when he was 6, he is burning with frustration at the political inaction, and I see that there's many of us across the chamber share that. We also have the current issue of protests by French hauliers around Calais who find themselves facing violent attacks from desperate migrants or refugees who are trying to survive in flimsy tents and squalid conditions. They have become the victims of the international failure to act. Better care, not higher walls, is what these people, our fellow human beings, need. This is a global crisis and it needs coordinated international action. Every safe and democratic nation should be willing and able to offer home to some of the refugees fleeing violence in the chaos of Syria, Afghanistan and Iraq. But all Westminster, including Theresa May, seems to be prepared to do is to talk and to make vague commitments about helping refugees in camps. I see no willingness to bring the promised 20,000 Syrian refugees from these camps by 2020. I just hear words. I see no actions. And let's be honest here, the UK is a country of about 60 million people. We have room. There's plenty of opportunity to take more people. And as some would say, Presiding Officer, Brexit only succeeded because of its ability of its leaders to stoke up fears about immigrants and refugees. And now Nicolas Sarkozy, the former Conservative President of France, has demanded that Britain open a detention centre for migrants on its own territory. Bigger walls, more detention centres? That's not what I think we need. And I was very surprised but happy to hear about the closure of Dungavel. It's to close at last, but filled with horror about what is being proposed as a short-term detention scheme with no recourse to justice, no community support and no family support for people who would be huckled to Yarlswood, where I'm afraid we don't have the same standards that we actually do have in Dungavel. That fills me with absolute horror. And a year ago, Presiding Officer, the First Minister's Humanitarian Summit established a task force. We've heard about this, the funding, £1 million, a coordinated response from not just this government, but across parties, across communities and across local authorities. Vigils were held across Scotland and indeed across the world. And Gary Christie, the Head of Policy and Communication at the Scottish Refugee Council, said, "Scotland can be proud of the support it has shown and continues to show. It has offered a heartfelt welcome to those in need." Yet in 2014, the UK made 14,000 positive asylum decisions, compared to 48,000 in Germany, 33,000 in Sweden and 21,000 in both France and Italy. And, Presiding Officer, our local authorities are working with the Syrian Vulnerable Persons Relocation Scheme to rehome people who have lost everything, in some cases family members, and to help them to build a new and productive life for themselves and their children. That's what they crave. The chance to live without the crashing of bombs, somewhere that they can build for themselves a decent life. Imagine, again, if that was one of us. Would we be denying those people that sanctuary or that opportunity? I'm very proud to say that South Lanarkshire Council's Chief Executive Committee had an updating meeting yesterday with the Syrian Vulnerable Persons Resettlement Scheme. South Lanarkshire Council has already provided accommodation for 44 families and expects to have reached its target of 60 within the year. I haven't heard the details yet, but it is recommended that the Council commit to settling another 60 refugees under the scheme during 2017, and I give them my wholehearted support in that. And I obviously, we all do hope that we can create somewhere for people to live and grow and be safe. But so long as there exists right-wing extremists to stoke up fires of resentment, there will be the opposition to human beings seeking safety and sanctuary from war, political violence and oppression. I believe that Scots are outward-looking, have a more global perspective and genuinely want to extend the hand of friendship and support. Presiding officer, no one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. It's time for us to be the sanctuary.
Thank you very much. I call Graham Simpson to be followed by Rona Mackay. Both of you have now 5 minutes. Thank you. Mr Simpson.
Yeah. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer.